Hello to you, Aharon Ariel Lavi.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, the creator of the new book 7 about the Jewish Shemitah. Please share with me from your perspective, what is the uniqueness of the new book?
Well, this book is as far as I know, the first serious attempt to take the commandment of Shemitah, the sabbatical year, which we know from the Bible, and give it a modern interpretation, modern commentary, and maybe also some modern implications and even implementation of those ideas in modern economy, modern society, and in face of the huge crisis that we face in economic society and the environment, of course.
And while you're saying trying to adjust to the modern crisis, what exactly do you mean? How it can be implemented in our daily lives?
Well, first we need to understand, at least that's what I'm proposing to understand from Shemitah, that the key message of Shemitah is that crises are a part of life. There is no way to annihilate them. We can alleviate them to some extent. We can make them less severe, less frequent, and less maybe terrible. But
yet to adjust.
Yet to take the benefit of the crisis and adjust to the next level. For example, if you look at our financial system, and that's just one example, we can look at security systems, at national systems, the academy, educational systems, whatever you want. But I'm taking the financial system because that's my field of expertise. There was a very, very interesting paper in The Economist, April 2014, about how our financial system actually evolved, not through a process of very smart people who sat in a room and thought very rationally, okay, how should the financial system of a rectified world should look like? They built a work plan, and then we just started following the work plan step by step. It didn't happen like that. Almost nothing in history happened like that. What actually happened is that since 1792, the first serious financial crisis in the United States, and 4 consecutive crises until 1929, which was the financial crisis of the modern era, even more than 2008, the financial system actually evolved through those crises. Each crisis we hit bottom, we came to a dead end, and then those smart people came with better ideas, better mechanisms, sometimes worse mechanisms, I have to say. It's a process, but it's some sort of like an evolution that, through which society evolves. We conserve the better parts of our past, we progressed through some incremental innovations and rectifications, and we move step by step. And I think that Shemitah was, and what it's offering us is actually to do this on purpose.
On purpose?
On purpose. Which is weird. Like, if you look, if you read the Talmud, and read the Bible, you see that Shemitah wasn't such a happy year. It was actually a very cumbersome year. It was a tough year. Some people actually starved. People left the land of Israel during Shemitah. Some of them. It wasn't a paradise. And then you ask yourselves, okay, so why? I mean, the Torah, the Bible, God is not about
suffering.
It's not about making you suffer. Shabbat is great, and all the other things are, yeah, there are some constraints on your life. You can do whatever you want, but those constraints serve you to live a more purposeful, more meaningful life. So why would God embed such a mechanism into the system that apparently makes people suffer? So I think the answer is, and it's in there, it's in between the lines, in the Talmud and the Kabbalah and all of our tradition. In between the lines it says, I'm giving you the opportunity, the idea, to implement into your system a pre-planned and a timed crisis on purpose, which is manageable. You know the terms in advance, you know how it's going to look like, and if you do it properly, it could alleviate the frequency and the impact and the magnitude of unplanned and surprising crises. And I think that's an idea that we can use in our world, in our time, as we have more and more crises and more development. Sometimes it makes sense to ease up, exactly, to scale down a bit, to take some time to look and contemplate on those changes.
And do you think that the during crisis of the COVID-19 worldwide, it's something that can be endured or connected to your new book and the new philosophy
Well, this year, as we speak now, it's the end of the month of Cheshvan, 5,782 years, according to the Hebrew counting, since the creation of the world, November 2021. So this is a Shemitah year, and we have 10 more months of, actually 11, because it's also Shana Muberet, it's like an extended year in the Hebrew calendar. We have 3 more months of a Shemitah year. And it happened also to be the second year of the COVID crisis. In Israel right now we're emerging out of the 4th wave. Let's hope this is the last of them, but we can never know. So that's a very good question, because on the one hand, COVID is a crisis, it's a global crisis. It's similar to Shemitah in some ways, but in other respects it's not, and it's very important to say that. It wasn't planned, well, let's hope it wasn't planned.
Yes.
It was a surprise, it's not manageable, it's not timed, like we don't know where it's going to end. We barely know when exactly it started. There are debates on where and when and how it started, actually. And it's not exactly the same. But what it did taught us, especially people who dealt with Shemitah before that, is that scaling down abruptly and like shutting down everything all of a sudden is probably not a good idea. Hence, taking Shemitah as it was, Shemitah was geared for an agricultural society, where 97% of the population worked in farming, so it was actually some sort of a shutdown of the economy. So if you're a fundamentalist, you would say, okay, so today everybody's in high-tech or computers, let's shut down all the computers for 1 year, and this will be the Shemitah of our time. It will be a crisis, it will be suffering, but it's not what Shemitah is supposed to be, I think. I'm not a fundamentalist. I think that we need to use Shemitah and all other ideas as source of inspiration. Obviously, there are the halachic sides. You know, we live in Israel. I don't eat certain kinds of vegetables this year because of halachic and kashrut laws that are related to Shemitah. But that has been solved already. I'm not trying to innovate in that field. I'm trying to take us to a different step or a different level, which looks at the more deeper insights and ideas in Shemitah, and doesn't offer like a fundamentalist implementation. Okay, let's just do a copy-paste from a agricultural society to a post-industrialist society. No, let's look at the deep idea. The idea is, for example, how to embed crises in reality and how to use them as opportunities for growth. That's one idea. There are many other ideas, but you have to read the book for that.
And you're saying regarding that there is a way to implement Shemitah ideas as part of your research, part of your books, also in the high-tech world, in the academical world, in a financial field, without being, let's say, too rough to say, let's not shut down all the computers for 1 year, but what can we do? How can we implement it in our lives?
So I'll give you one idea. And again, this idea, I have to say at the outset, it's not halacha. I'm not proposing that this is what we have to do according to Jewish law. It's an idea. It's an inspiration. And I'm open to debate, open to disagreements. I actually love to have a debate. I think many of us close ourselves in echo chambers too often, and it's healthy to have a debate and disagreements to some extent, not violent, just a debate. But let's take one example, one idea that I propose from my inspiration from Shemitah, and other people can propose other ideas. If we were to sit in a room right now with people in the audience, and I would ask, who in this room under the age of 40 still works in the same job they worked on 20 years ago or 15 years ago? I can guarantee that almost no one would raise their hand. If I would shorten it to 10 years, maybe some people would raise their hand and say, yes, I'm still in the same job that I was 10 years ago. 5 years, a bit more. When you go to 2 to 3 years, maybe most of the people will raise their hands and say, yeah, I'm still in the same job from 2 or 3 years ago. If I ask the opposite question, or not the flip side, and say, who in this room above the age of 40 or 60 is still in their job from 40 years ago, almost everybody would raise their hands. If I would ask them, have you changed your job or career in the last 2 or 3 years, almost no one would raise their hands. That's not good or bad. It's more about how the economy is evolving and the reality that we live in. And there's no way we can stop it. That's what the technology and progress is going to more volatility in the job market and more creativity, and vocations are going to disappear, new vocations are going to appear, and we're just going to have to deal with that. So for some people it's great, it's very creative, it's fun to relocate and to move to another job all the time. If you're successful, that can be a great opportunity. For some it's not. Some people that I know are still left behind since COVID started. They sit at home for like 18, 24 months. It's not, I'm putting aside their livelihood. Let's assume they have money. It's not about the money. It's about your purpose in life. It's about your identity. Now, what if we sort of embed a crisis into the system? Not globally, everybody at the same time. A personal crisis. Like Harvard University decided to do with the sabbatical year, which they took from the Shemitah year. That's where they took the idea from in 1880, and that's how it spread into the entire academic world and the educational world, that people take a sabbatical year every 6 years. What if we take this idea and adapt it to other branches, maybe all branches or most branches of the market, and offer people to take, it can be 3 months, it can be half a year, it can be a whole year, of some sort of a break, some sort of scale down, which is not for fun, it's not for vacation. The sabbatical year in the academy, it's not for vacation, it's in order to give the professors the opportunity to adapt, to update their knowledge, to do some research, and come back to teach at the university much more equipped for the state-of-the-art knowledge in their field. So it's not a vacation, it's an opportunity to learn a new skill, to get to know the market, to look around what can be my next phase in life. And then I can either use this year to actually pivot, actually make this transition myself, or I can use it just to acquire a new skill or new knowledge, and then when the crisis hits, I already have something in my toolbox that I can use for the next phase. And it's not going to help everybody. Some people will still experience severe crises in terms of the volatile job market, but maybe it can, as I said before, alleviate those crises to some extent, reduce their frequency, and reduce their impact, and also maybe make them into an opportunity. I think that's the end goal, to use crises
into an opportunity.
as opportunities.
That's great. People that want to be part of your journey, want to be part of your community of the book 7, and they want to be kindly debating with you, kindly arguing or understanding, coming to lectures that you're giving in Israel and elsewhere in the United States. Is it an opportunity that you're open yourself into this kind of dialogue?
By all means, I'm open to dialogue, I'm open to conversations, to studying together. And as I said, my ideas are not obligating anyone to do anything. These are just ideas. And if people like them, they will embrace them. If not, they're not. They can offer alternative ideas. I think the main point is to get a conversation going about how we can use what seems to be ancient and maybe irrelevant knowledge and apply it to modern society. And I'll give you one example just to conclude with, which we talked about earlier. If I give you the following series of numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8. It's very simple mathematics. I'm not asking you don't need a PhD in mathematics for that. So 2, 4, 6, 8. What will be the next 3 numbers?
10, 12, 14, and maybe 16.
Right, and you say it's self-evident.
Yes.
It's intuitive. And most people nowadays would say that. Now, if you go back 2,500, 3,000 years to ancient Mesopotamia, to ancient Babylon, parts of ancient Greece, this is something I learned from Michael Hudson, the historian of economics, and one of my teachers, Professor Menachem Fish. And he would ask the same question to Netnael 2,500 years ago in Babylon. The answer would be 2, 4, 6, 8. Oh, then it's 6, 4, 2.
Wow.
It's cyclical. Now, both answers are right. You can have a linear mathematical series, you can have a cyclical series, everything is okay. It's a mindset, it's a culture. It's the intuition of that generation. Now, the first to put the idea of linear progress on the table, at a time where everybody thought in a cyclical manner, the first thinkers to put this idea forward were the Hebrew prophets. From Moses, and then the early prophets and the later prophets, they put this idea forward of there's a future that we can strive for, we can move there, we can go there. We're not condemned to live the same cycle again and again and again.
It might take many years.
It can take thousands of years, but we can take a small step forward and not just run around in circles. Now, this idea had huge implications on our economy, our politics, our arts, culture, education, to this day. And so this is one idea, which is also related to Shemitah, and I explain why in a different part of the book. But this is an example of one idea that has enduring implications. So what about other ideas? This idea of a pre-planned crisis. What about the idea of a weekly day of rest, which is also a Jewish idea. The mere idea of a 7 days week is a Jewish idea that impacted the entire world. Some of those ideas can serve us today and reinvigorate our thinking on modern challenges. Not fundamentalistically, just as inspiration of how we can move forward in a better way.
Aharon Ariel Lavi, I want to thank you very much with the new book, 7.
Thank you.